Alone, we can do so little. Together, we can do so much. And that's a beautiful quote from Helen Keller. From Helen Keller. And it really is a nice opening for our theme this month, which is practicing the presence as common unity or community. And you may or may not know that we are celebrating our 4th year as a Center for Spiritual Living. We opened our doors on Easter Sunday in 2015 for our Sunday services. And the founding board members, decided that we would designate Easter Sunday every year, even though it moves, Easter Sunday as our anniversary Sunday, because that is such a celebratory day anyway. So that's coming up here on the 21st. We'll have our Easter service here, and then we'll have a little celebration and our tailgate party to celebrate our anniversary and 4 years of being together. Today is a special day in the community also. As Susie said, it is our annual meeting of our members. And we will be coming together for that. And it's a time where those of us who have committed to this center come together in that commitment to our spiritual growth, our spiritual expansion, and to this community. And early this afternoon, then we'll be electing our 2019 Board of Trustees. And we look at last year, as Susie said, we'll look at this year and going forward. And the theme, again, being common unity, came about as a reference in the Living the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes' essays that he wrote, or that were actually transcribed from many of his lectures and classes, to expand on the science of mind. And I was referred to this by Lynn Jones, who just walked in, which is good timing, Lynn. And it's called The Family Life. It's called The Family Life. And I had never read it until Lynn brought it to my attention. And what it really did was anchor me in this idea of one family, and that we are all one family in our individual families, as well as in this community, as well as in Scottsdale, and on our planet, because of that idea of oneness and wholeness that we talk so much about here, that we are all connected in that, and the idea of family is in that connection. So being a spiritual family, and Ernest says, we're a collection of perfect ideas. And I love that line. We're a collection of perfect ideas because we're all individualized ideas in the mind of spirit, made manifest in form. So a collection of perfect ideas, no matter what it might look like, right? No matter. So the talk today is a higher state of consciousness. And it's based on another essay in Living the Science of Mind called Group Treatment. Group Treatment. And that is the power of group prayer. The power of group prayer. So have you ever heard that saying, where 2 or more are gathered together, it will be done for them? You ever heard that? It comes from the Bible, the book of Matthew, and it's attributed to Jesus as one of his sayings. Now, when you first hear that, where 2 or more of you are gathered, then it will be done for you, you might think, God needs an audience. He's not going to show up unless there's 2 or more people, right? Got to have at least 2 to hold that class. But that's not what he's saying. Ernest gives us another perspective. He says that a greater power is generated when more than one pray together for the same cause, because the combined faith of the group reaches a higher level of acceptance, or we might say vibration of that acceptance, right? Reaches a higher level. And it sounds right to hear that, doesn't it? That just sounds right. It makes sense, so to speak. Group acceptance. Now, when I was first putting this together, when I was reading that group acceptance, I thought, lemmings? Right? The little guys that go off the cliff, right? You don't follow the lemmings, think for yourself. Business principles, have used that for years. But as I did a little research around lemmings, I found that that whole idea that we all learned in the 1950s from Disney Studios is actually a hoax, that it wasn't true. They actually, the Disney folks went to, I think Alaska's where the lemmings mainly hang out, and they brought them over to Canada, and they put them on this turntable, and they would fall off, And they did this filming and made up this story about it in the 1950s. In the 1980s, then, scientists discovered that that wasn't quite the truth. And so there's a whole other body of evidence and studies out there about lemmings and how they are incredibly prolific, and they have this cycle of life where they're incredibly overpopulated, and then they do this thing where they become almost extinct. And it's just this cycle of life that they've had for millions of years. They've tracked them back forever. But anyway, enough about lemmings. So it was fake news. Fake news. However, Ernest Holmes provides us a fresh perspective on these words of Jesus, of course, right? It's what he does. And he says, this is the entire quote. He says, when a group of people come together with one accord, with one idea, and with one thought, a greater power is generated. Not because the creative principle responds to a number of people more than it does to one, but because the combined faith of that group reaches this higher level of acceptance. Therefore, group treatments should be definitely practiced with the purpose in mind of arriving at a deeper conviction. Now, there's a lot of information in that quote, a lot of stuff. Let's look at a couple of them. He says, coming together with one agreement and one thought generates great power. Now, when I thought of that, I thought of college football. I know I had some crazy thoughts around these things this week, lemmings to college football, right? But if you think about college football, if you've seen a game in the last few years, at the opening of the game, when the team is running in, they've got this thing going now where everybody stands up and they start stomping their feet. Have you seen that? And they were concerned about the stadiums and the structural integrity of them, with everybody jumping up and down and making all that noise. But what we see in that is faith and group acceptance, don't we? Because pretty much everybody in the stands ends up on their feet, stomping their feet in unison. They have a unified idea of what they are doing, and you can feel the power in the stadium that begins to happen at that point. Their unified thought, their unified idea is in support of their team winning, right? They have faith that that team is going to win. Now, that's probably a silly example, but I think it's relatable to the idea of coming together in group unity. Coming together in group unity. But imagine coming together like that around a spiritual cause, around peace on our planet, around healing, around greater expression of truth, stomping our feet maybe, creating some energy around that. That sounds sort of like a Tony Robbins event, doesn't it? You've ever been to one of those or seen him? He's an incredibly high energy person, and the audience is very much engaged in that activity. Another good example, but does that sort of motivation last? Anybody ever been to an event and come home all fired up, and then 2 weeks later you can't find the materials? Yeah, right? Well, why is that? With Tony Robbins and with even sports things. I mean, that doesn't go home with them usually on Tuesdays. If they won, it's like, yay, we won. But they're not at that frenzied level any longer. Well, I think the biggest difference between the Saturday afternoon football game and a Tony Robbins event and what we're talking about in group treatment is belief. It's belief. And not in the team or the individual, but in something outside of ourselves, but belief of spirit within, belief of the God that lives, moves, and has its being within us. It's an interior thing, right? Different from that exterior, external motivation that we may be receiving from the group in the stadium, or in, I guess Tony's in a stadium too sometimes, or in his events as well. And once we have taken those leaps in consciousness, once we've expanded our awareness, we can't go back, can we? We can't unlearn it. Once we've had that aha moment of experience in our own divinity, or our oneness in the divine, that peak experience, if you will, with the divine, we don't go back. We don't go back. We always know what that is. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that I don't love Tony Robbins and Virginia Tech football, right? Who wouldn't do that? It's just that I love God a lot more. And I know the difference between this interior and exterior sort of belief and motivation. So let's look at the next idea that Holmes talks about in that quote, and he's talking about mutual acceptance. Mutual acceptance. In metaphysics, we know that faith set in motion produces facts in human experience. Faith set in motion produces facts in a human experience. Now, I guess most of us in this room have had the experience of prayer answered or manifested prayer in our lives, and that may be a parking spot or a healing, right? It could be anywhere on that spectrum of manifestation. But if you think about how that process came about for you, there was probably a spark. There was probably first a spark, an idea of something that I want less of, more of, a different experience of some difference that we wanted to have. If we're driving through a parking lot and I'm tired of driving through the parking lot, I really need a parking space now. Where is my parking space? We're tired of that driving around. Or if we've got an illness that we're working on, we're tired of the illness. We're ready to let it go. Whatever it might be, there's a spark of something within us that moves us forward into seeking change, seeking that difference. We have the idea now. We have that concrete idea of what it is that I want to be different. The next thing is we start our prayers, right? We begin to pray. And we begin to do our treatment and claiming and knowing and speaking that good. And, maybe it was a few minutes till it manifested. Maybe it was a few days, months, years. At the level of our acceptance, right? At the level of our acceptance. Parking spots, sometimes we can accept pretty quick because we're not attached to it, right? We're not attached to it. But maybe if we're doing some healing work, it may take a little longer because we've got some stuff with it. Because we maybe have not accepted all of the changes that our subconscious believes we're going to experience once we receive that which we're treating for. And that's sometimes the case, isn't it? I want the change in the relationship, but I'm not willing to have the conversation to make that happen. I want to change my health condition, but I'm not really willing to go to the gym or stop eating chocolate. There's that disconnect in that which we have the divine desire for and our willingness to accept all that goes with it. To accept all that goes with it. Sometimes giving up a habit, one of the things that we always look at is, who will I be if I give this up? Who will I be if I give this up? And that's a question that I frequently ask my clients when I'm having sessions with them is, what are you ready and willing to receive? At what level? We've talked about it before that if you're manifesting $1 million, are you willing? Can you accept that today? Or is 1,000 more realistic and acceptable today? And we build into the greater amount. We build the consciousness. We build the awareness. Can you accept the complete healing and remission today? Or do we need to build into that? Or is it going to take more time? Can you accept the immediate healing of a broken bone like you can the removal of a wart? Those are all questions that we have to ask ourselves, aren't they? Those are all questions we have to ask ourselves. Faith set in motion produces facts in our lives. Are you ready to receive? And I think that's a very valid question that we can ask ourselves when we're doing our prayer treatment work, either individually or collectively in community. And I think in this community we have a beautiful example, and I have her permission to share this. We've all been through Lori's healing journey with her this year. And last fall, when we talked about it, she asked me to share with the community her diagnosis and her prayer request. And she was very clear on what she was willing to receive. And if you remember, many of us had various reactions to that announcement. Shock, fear, sadness. a lot of emotional responses, but what we all eventually got to was that higher acceptance of group treatment for her healing, for her complete remission, dissolving of any tumor. And when we got there and got in that place, and she was there and in that place with us, and her other prayer partners throughout our movement were in that place with her, Lori is healed. She's released that. That is the power of group treatment, of group prayer, of holding the same thought and the same idea together in community. We're so blessed by that experience. I thank you, Lori, for allowing me to share that this morning, because it's very relative, I think, to this example of what Ernest Holmes is talking to us about, that we have put in practice in this community and seen the physical manifestation before us. What else can we do? What else can we do? Conviction and acceptance. Powerful states of being. Conviction, which is acceptance of truth with a capital T. I know the sun is going to come up. I know that this will be healed. I know that my finances are in order. I know. What do you know? What do you know? What is your conviction that you know so much in your heart that you can stand with another and know that with them, and stand with another, and we get into that group acceptance of the manifestation? How powerful would that be? Feel like stomping your feet? Yeah. You can feel the energy, can't you? Of the idea of the group prayer, the group holding of one idea. A little bit like the buddy system in school. Remember that? Everybody had a buddy. If you lined up and you went on a field trip, you had to keep up with each other, right? And the same is true with prayer. We have prayer partners. I've had a prayer partner. One of my most sacred relationships is with a prayer partner I've had for 8 years. We pray every week. And when she's not in a good place, I know the truth of her. When I'm not in a good place, she knows the truth of me. We're both uplifted by that. I look forward to that, and I'm supported by that. Where two or more are gathered, we have that higher vibration of belief. And our spiritual community is a great place to practice that, isn't it? That's really what we're here for, is to be here for each other, to walk this journey of life, to support each other, to pray with each other, to know the truth of each other, of our center, of all of its ministries, of everyone that's here, everyone that's coming, and everyone that's been. We bless all. But Ernest cautions us that one of the challenges of group prayer, group treatment, is getting everybody on the same page, holding the same thought, kind of like herding cats, right? We have to surrender our individual for the group. We have to surrender our individual. And religious science is not known for that, is it? Religious science is all about improving ourselves. And yet, here we have this beautiful idea of group treatment, group prayer, coming together in that oneness that we are, in that wholeness that we are, and holding that divine idea for whatever it might be. It could be for an individual in that group. How many of you have read The Power of Eight, Lynn Taggart's book? That's a powerful, powerful study about the power of intention. And isn't our realization step of treatment the intention that we're setting? Yeah, it's our affirmative intention. Her studies have proven that 15 minutes of concentrated intention of a group produces results, measurable results. And when we had our study group here on that material, we witnessed that. Measurable results where folks in the group said, yes, I feel different. And it was fascinating because They set the intention, told us what they were willing to receive, and then we as a group intended for 15 minutes, everybody as an individual for that person, and it was received, it was accepted, and it was manifested. So there's power in this. There is power in this. Getting folks to think alike at the same time, key ingredient to the success of group treatment. So let's look at some practicing the presence this week and how we might reach this higher state of consciousness. The first idea is that we come together with one agreement and one thought to generate great power. One agreement and one thought to generate great power. And sometimes that can be the toughest part, can't it? Have you ever noticed that? What would you like prayer for? And we're not just concrete about it. And that's one of the keys, is getting very clear on what is it that I want to experience? What is that blossom that I want to live in? And some of the stuff, I think we get into a routine of, oh, well, I need more money. Well, what does that really mean? What does that really look like? Security in my finances, stability in my finances. No, it really is $1 million. I am so far in debt, I have got to have $1 million. What is it really that's there? Relationship. What do we want in a relationship? And are you willing to take everything that comes with that? Are you ready to receive Mr. or Mrs. Wonderful and all that comes with that? Because the all that comes with it is what your subconscious is chewing on. We all have the idea, woo, I want Mr. or Mrs. Right. But your subconscious chews on the, but commitment, for freedom, merging lifestyles, compromise? Oh my God. Right? We think we think sometimes that, I'm manifesting the perfect relationship when we forget that we're half of that. We're half of that, right? So I got to be Mrs. Wonderful if I'm looking for Mr. Wonderful. That's how it works. That's how it works. Okay, mutual acceptance. Surrender of my personal desire for the common good. Are you willing to be that for someone? In community prayer, if a prayer partner says, will you know this with me? Are you willing to give up your prayer request to be in theirs? Are you willing to surrender it up and go, yes, I will stand with you in that prayer. I will know this with you. Let us pray together for that. Let us hold that. And it's giving up. It's not tit for tat. Yeah, I'll pray for you if you'll pray for me. It's not about that. It's about, yes, I will stand in this knowing until we see a manifestation, period. That's what it's about. Remember the movie Wrath of Khan? Mr. Spock, the meltdown in the whatever engine room thing. And Spock is the only one that can go in there and take care of it without instantly dying. He's going to die, but he's not going to die instantly. And he and Jim have that real, emotional, powerful moment. The good of the many versus the good of the one. Well, that's kind of what this is about. You're not going to die over it, obviously, but to give up your individual need, surrendering that for the good of the many, the good of the group. And the third is, this is really about leveraging your power, isn't it? When we think about group treatment, it's really about leveraging the power. Yes, I can pray all day long and I can manifest. We've all done it, right? We've all done it. We've all prayed and had our manifestations. But if you can leverage that power, like Lynn's studies on the power of 8, immediate and measurable results. Is that worth the time? Leveraging your power? Getting us to think alike at the same time results in success. If we can get on the same page, that's a wonderful cliche we hear all the time, get on the same page. It means holding the same thought, holding the same outcome, seeing the same blossom. Holmes reminds us that no matter how much power It will not produce results unless it's tied to a purpose. So if that group in the stadium were standing there just stomping their feet with no team on the field, it's generating power, but there's no results because there's no purpose, right? There's no purpose. So the purpose behind our treatments. What's your why? What's your why? I want a new car because. What's your why? I want that money because. I want that relationship because. I don't feel healed or healthy. I need someone to complete me. I don't feel happy. I need a car. It'll make me happy, I'm sure, at least for a little while. New shoes. Mama needs new shoes. Then I'll be happy. What's the why? So this week, I'm going to invite you to find a prayer partner. If you don't have one, I would invite you to partner up with someone and invite them to pray with you this week and to see what you can create in your life. Find a common purpose. It can be for one of you. It can be for peace on our planet. It can be for this center. It can be for anything at all. Find a prayer partner. Step in. Test it out. You can join our class tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. It's the last night to join that. Got 9 more weeks of deepening in prayer, meditation, practice. Anybody can speak the word for another. Do you believe that? Do you believe you can? Doesn't matter how the process goes. It really doesn't. I know we teach a lot about that. We have little brochures back on the back table. It's called Affirmative Prayer Treatment. It gives you an example of the steps of the treatment, and then on the back it gives you space to write your own. You can use this with your prayer partner. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's the most powerful practice that we teach in the science of mind. It's the most unique one that we teach as far as prayer. It will change your life. So I want to close out this morning as we begin. And remember, alone we can do little. Together we can do much. So would you join me now in a prayer this morning? How good it is to breathe in that breath, recognizing that that is the breath of God. It is the breath of life that moves through each of us and sustains us day in and day out in this journey that we call life. And as I move into that breath and that stillness and that peaceful place within me, I recognize God. I recognize Spirit, Source, presence of the divine. And recognizing that God is all that there is. There's nothing outside of it. There's not God and anything else. There is only God. It is love. It is joy. It is harmony, unity, peace. It's the infinite intelligence that holds planets and their evolution and their atmospheres, stars, the very atoms and molecules of our bodies. And so as I know that God is all there is, I know that I am that which it is in form, that I am an expression of it, individualized and unique, made manifest in this time-space reality for specific purpose. There's no mistakes in this universe. It's an orderly place we live in. And as I know that I'm a manifestation of it, I have those qualities of it. I know that for each of us here, that we are each individualized, unique, and amazing manifestations of the divine. And as I know that, I know our unity. I know our unification. Just like the feet stomping in the stadium is power, I know that our knowing in our own unity in spirit is power. And so that's the place that I speak my word from this morning. Knowing, claiming, and accepting the common unity, the community that we are as Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. That we have come together again by divine appointment in this community for the manifestation of Spirit's vision through each of us. whole, perfect, and complete. And I bless today each of our candidates who have stepped forward into service into this community as its board of trustees. Each and every member that has come today to be a part of this community, to be here for this annual meeting. I bless each and every one of our volunteers that has ever stepped into service in this community to bring it to where it is in this day. I bless every musical guest artist that has brought their talent, their gift, and shared it with us. And every person that has graced our door, every guest that has come and visited. Some have stayed, some have not. Some have blessed us with their presence. All of our guest speakers. We're so abundantly blessed. And so I know for each of us today, as we come together in this community, that we are Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living. We are blessed in this common unity. And so with a grateful heart, I just simply release this into the activity of mind, into the action of law, knowing that it is already done, and we affirm it together by saying, and so it is.